Never mind. Anyways, NAWWR. Last time for real this time. No, it's just Charles and all them, bigwigs at the meeting there, or the presentation said that you should be doing that, or people should be doing that. And guys, somebody's playing a recording. We got a joker out there who obviously is infatuated with me, and it's really pretty cool because I know I sound great coming cross-manning off that handy-talkie there, that old Motorola handy-talkie from the living room there. So there you go. That's why you're hearing 2 and 3. You're hearing me 2 and 3 times. So somebody's recording me, and they're gonna. Never mind. Anyways, NAWWR. Last time for real this time.
Yeah, Kelvin, I'll shoot the group an email and some thoughts there. Yeah, I think that it's both a combination. Like for me, it would be a great thing to do. I think that'd be a really valuable part of NCTC. But I also think that it would almost be impossible to do and keep the thing running. Plus, signal reports are kind of arbitrary. So anyway, we can talk about it more, but I think it's worth talking about it. Okay, wait, Jimmy. I hope someone record me.
I don't think you're that lucky, and I still think you're the second best net controller over there, Calvin. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, right? I'm just saying, you're the second best behind Mac. I'm way at the bottom. I'd say Guy's third. Then Jason's up there too. Jason, you guys are all way better than me. But yeah, no. I just thought Tony needed to know that. So there you go. And you were at the rain, so you get the filter. And the guy don't want to record you. So. I don't know what to tell you guys. Good night. Stay tuned for Skynet at NAWWR.
W5FC.
Okay, I've had a lot of fun with the audio this evening. Can somebody give me an audio report outside of the annoying buzz, which I'm trying to get rid of? Is the audio loud enough for tonight? Oh, I'll give you what I can hear from KI5NON. The buzz is rather prominent and noticeable, but outside of that, your voice is making it over the buzz. I would say you're readable, but not incredibly pleasant to listen to. No offense intended. Just I can understand you, but the buzz is very much there, and sometimes you fall below it. KI5NON. All right, thank you. I know where the buzz is coming from, but I cannot get rid of it until I get an adapter. And if there were a Radio Shack, I could go to Radio Shack and find the adapter back-ordered, I'm sure, if there were any left. Although I do know there is one in Derby, Kansas. Still exists, and it's run by 3 hands. Interesting information. I wonder if somebody might have someone kicking around, might throw it up on the Discord or something. But yeah, I'd say maybe turn up mic gain a touch. Honestly, it's probably fine. Or just speak loud and proud, and you'll make it through.
Alpine, Texas. Alpine, Texas. There is a Radio Shack there. KF5JHA.
Try Mouser there, Tom. W5GUS.
You just type in adapter, and you'll have 10,947 items. Choose them. K1GBD. Yeah, if you ever get a chance, if you're headed up to Kansas, Derby, I think it's Derby, Kansas. Yeah, it's Derby, Kansas. Drop by. It's a rather interesting place. It's worth the 10 minutes off the highway to go visit. So owned by 3 hams. They got tons of radios that you can buy. And it still has Radio Shack items, including the Radio Shack line items and everything else. It's amazing. I've been there several times, and I used to travel. I used to stop in all the time, but I don't travel anymore, so I don't stop in. Oh well. All right. I'm going to clear. Our net begins in a couple of minutes. This is KE5ICX. Thank you, guys. Someone should put together a road trip to the United States based off of ham radio stores. That'd be interesting. KI5NON. I'll be standing by for that.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet. need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet. Is KF5PDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic. We encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? It's a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echo Link are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echo Link node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, Was Up, space exploration and space history, Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and 73 rounds. Amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to my alternate net control, Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll do the check-in, please, from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Miss Billy, and thank you for doing the net this evening. Please excuse the buzz. I have found it finally, and everybody's mentioned it. I will get rid of it, but I need an adapter. I need somebody to reopen a Radio Shack. This is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. My name's Tom. I'm your alternate net control this evening. I'm going to go ahead and take check-ins. I'll take low power short time first. If you're one of those, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, your location. Please let me know if you're low power short time.
W5BLT, short time, low power, Whiskey 5, Bravo Lima Tango.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power, 5 watts.
Whiskey 7 Kilo Yankee Golf, Calvin and Arlington, just listening tonight.
Kilo Golf 5, Papa Hotel, John, Plano.
Let me hold up there. It's low power short time, but that's okay. I would have got you anyway. I got W5BLT, short time low power. W5GUS Gus in far northeast Dallas. He's low power. I got W7 KYG Calvin in Arlington. KG5PPH John over in Plano. So since we do have one short-time person here, does anybody here want to give any announcements who I've just acknowledged? Now's the opportunity if you want to do it early. All right, we'll go ahead and move to general check-ins. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is November 5, Golf Hotel, Oscar, Lance, in Louisville.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo to the Whiskey J, near Weatherford.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto.
W5 PLT, Whiskey 5 Bravo, Lima, Tango, Bill.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray Kelly in Quinlan.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz. Planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, the state of Texas, Mesquite.
All right, well, with that crazy check-in, that's a good time to break, so let me give you who I've got. I got N5GHO, that's Lance in Louisville, NT5TM Tony in Dallas, KG5BZW Jay near Weatherford, WB5OZL Brenda, Miss Brenda in DeSoto, K5KTX Miss Kelly in Quinlan. I've got a KF5JHA Chaz in Mesquite, and Bill, I do have you checked in, W5BLT. Let's see. Let's take another round. Anyone would like to join us? Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
This is Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
This is Alpha Golf 9, Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas.
November 5, Bravo Bravo, Bill in Irving.
Okay, we picked up three more. I got Alpha Alpha Hotel, that's Robert Richardson, AG9SG, Antonio in Dallas, N5DB, Bill in Irving. Anyone else would like to join us before I move over to Echoing? Please come now.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
All right, we picked up two more. The first station, I've got a Kilo India 5 call in Arlington. Could you give me your call again and your name? You might want to give me your call twice. You're real light into the repeater, so try one more time, please.
KI-5, KWG, Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf. And I am 5 watt and indoors on the HD. Name is Cruz in Arlington.
your call on that one, KI5KWG over in Arlington. I still didn't quite, maybe Cruz? The name is really hard to tell. That's okay, I got you, Ian. I'll look you up a little bit later. I got KG5, Whiskey Victor Lima, that's James over in Carrollton. Let me move over to Echolink. If you're over on Echolink and would like to join us, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name and where you're transmitting from. Mostly everybody's checked in, but not everybody. If you'd like to join us, now is the time. I'll give you extra time because Echolink is slow. Please come now. Echolink only.
T5 ZIX, Joe. I'm in South Padre Island, Texas right now.
Kilo 5 Juliet Delta Whiskey, John in Norman, Oklahoma.
Okay, we picked up 2 over on Echolink. I've got Kilo Golf 5, Zulu India X-Ray, that's Joe over in Wiley, and K5JDW, John in his winter chalet up in Norman, Oklahoma. Okay, one more round. Anyone, anywhere, any mode would like to join us, please come now with your call sign, phonetically your name and where you're transmitting from. Okay, hearing none, let me send this back to net control. We have 19 check-ins so far. This is KE5ICX.
.com, and welcome to all who have checked in on Skynet. All right, let's go ahead and get started with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If so, please come now with your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
PM, Tony, good evening. What announcements do you have for us?
Hey, Billy, I'd like to remind everyone that we have an Afterglow movie discussion net tonight talking about the 1968 oddity Barbarella. We also do have, no surpriseness this month, but a GeekNet this Monday on this repeater at 7 p.m. We can talk about anything that we find geeky. It doesn't have to be ham radio related if we don't want it to be. Anyway, hope to hear you tonight on Skynet and the Afterglow movie discussion, and perhaps even Monday on the GeekNet. NT 5 p.m. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Does anybody else have any announcements? If so, please come now with your call sign.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo.
BD, Bill, good evening. What for us?
Billy, the Irving Amateur Radio Club Irving Ham Fest will be a week from today. That will be on Saturday, March the 5th. It's in Irving, roughly a mile south of Highway 183 on Story Road at Irving Boulevard at the Bingo Hall, where we've had it before. You can find out everything you want to know about it, the Ham Fest, by going to irvingarc.org. That's irvingarc.org. And up near the top of that page, there's a button to press to find out more about the Hamfest. You can look at what our prizes are, if you have to be present to win, how to buy tickets and raffle tickets in advance, all that kind of good stuff. The hours will be 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. There will be hourly prize drawings. The grand prize will be drawn at 1 p.m. We're doing this in the Irving Club is doing in conjunction with the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. So if you're a member of either club, or if you're a member of no club, we would like you to help us if you'd like to. So on that webpage I mentioned, there's an email address where you can send a message to if you would like to volunteer. Okay, I think that's it. Hope to see you there. And Tom, there's going to be a guy there, supposedly, that bought a whole bunch of stuff from some closed-up Radio Shacks. So you need to come and look for your audio adapter. This is N5BB. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Does anybody else have any general announcements? If so, please come now with your call sign. Hearing any, so I'll go ahead with some announcements of my own. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You'll need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. The Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9. Tom N5HYP is the net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night, so there's no AMSAT East on that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 140 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC hosts several Monday night nets. The first Monday of the month is Ham Fixins. This is a great recipe cooking net, so if you want to come and listen and grab some great recipes, or if you have a recipe to share, or an anecdote or question about food, bring it to Ham Fixins Net. On the second Monday is MCOM 101, Emergency Communications. The third Monday, come back for a second Help Fixins Net. And as Tony mentioned, on fourth Mondays is GeekNet. And whenever there is a fifth Monday, it's a surprise net. If we told you what it was, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. Tuesdays, AMSAT East, 8 p.m., question and answers, info and news for amateur satellites. Fridays, CERT City simulation at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI5GRH, is usually the net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday. CERT City, all are welcome. And Saturdays is the Night of Nets, with TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m., and of course at 9 p.m., Skynet. And as Tony mentioned, following Skynet is at 10:30 is the Afterglow Movie Net. If you're new to this net, the way the Afterglow works is after we discuss the movie from the previous week, we pick a movie, watch it during the week as our schedule allows, and then we come back for the Afterglow Movie Net and we discuss the movie that we've watched during the week. It will talk about anything from plot, characterization, special effects, music, and any other interesting tidbits and trivia and facts about the movie that we wish to discuss. So you'll hear more about Afterglow Movie here in just a moment. First and third Sundays are the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. And daily, the ARRLNet National Traffic System Training Net is every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And as I mentioned, following Skynet, it is the Afterglow Movie Net. So at this time, I will turn the net over to my alternate net control, Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll give us tonight's Afterglow info.
Well, thank you, Miss Billion. This is KE5ICX. Now, I have to tell you, this movie is bizarre on its own, so even I can't make this sound as crazy as it really is. But here we go. This is based on a true story. The director looked at the set, knowing it was loaded with explosives and the ever-present hummingbirds. But that didn't deter him as he downed another whiskey double. The set swirled around his head as prepared for the next scene. The famous actress arrived in some French costume, though he wasn't completely sure she was even dressed at all. French fashion was always somewhat provocative, and with a blood alcohol level heading to the stratosphere, it only seemed natural that whatever happened, he would survive, even if his lead actress and the hummingbirds did not. Join us for what has become a cult classic, Barbarella from 1968. And I did ask, will we be watching the 1977 version? No, this is the 1968 version. So, belly up to the bar and get ready for takeoff for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net at 10:30 p.m. And all the crazy references I just made, they're true. Back to net control, this is KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom. And you can keep up with all the DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. So at this time, if there's anyone on frequency that would like to give us information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, please come now with your call sign.
Well, of course I can do this if no one else wants to. KF5JHA.
JHA, Chaz, good evening. What information can you give us about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas?
Well, I could tell you that the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas club meeting, the last one, was held last night at 7:30. The meeting was held on Zoom. Dr. Tyler Nordgren he was representing sort of the National Park System. He was the featured speaker. His topic was Stars Above, Earth Below, Night Skies and Solar Eclipses in America's Parks. He ended talking about the 2023 annular solar eclipse and the 2024 total eclipse. And we've been talking on Echolink about where Kelly is located. She's going to be maybe very close to the center line. That would be about 4.5 minutes of totality. Anyway, so that meeting was held on Zoom. Now, next month, on March the 25th at 7:30, will be the next Zoom meeting. Dr. Pearson from Wyoming, and I missed his topic last night. I had it in my hands, and I didn't get it. Anyway, Task Club members will receive an email about the Zoom link about a week or so in advance. Now, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas has had, in the past, Saturday night public observing sessions every Saturday night somewhere in the Metroplex, but it's been closed down for the last 2 years because of COVID. And one of the reasons why Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights was so that there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Task Club observing sessions. But again, that hasn't happened for about 2 years. If you want to get detailed information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, go to texasastro.org for up-to-date information about meetings and public observing sessions, even how to buy a telescope or a pair of binoculars. All right. Back to net control. This is KF5JHA.
Thanks very much, Chad. Appreciate the information. All right, next up is National Space Society events and activities. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Bill and CB. You can give us information about the National Space Society.
Thank you very much, Billy. This is N5BB. I happen to be the membership director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. We have a Facebook page. You can go and search for it, National Space Society of North Texas. And we've got a website, but we're kind of fixing it. It was moved to a new URL, a new host, and we're kind of getting it cleaned back up again. We do meet on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. Our next meeting should be back in person. For a few months we've been meeting virtually, but we should be meeting in person. We're going to try to do a hybrid meeting with in-person and WebEx simultaneous, which is hard to do, I know, because I've done it before. Anyway, we will be at the Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving. This is on the corner of Beltline Road and Highway 183 across the highway from Irving Mall. And the start time will be 3:30. The presentation will start at 4 p.m. I don't know the topic for this one. It may be a remote speaker via WebEx. We were still kind of ironing that out. If you would like to participate, you can, or if you want to learn more about the National Space Society, National, or our local chapter, and you want to find out how to join. I mean, Gus in W5GUS, he joined within the last two months. If you'd like to join the National, and Brenda's a member, and so is Calvin. Anyway, if you'd like to join our group, you can send me an email at space@byram.net. That's SPACE@byram.net. Or N5BB, that's November 5 Bravo Bravo, @ARRL.net. Our next, we had an event last week because we were at the Dallas Regional Science and Engineering Fair. I was one of the judges. Unfortunately, one of our judges was in the hospital, so we only had 2 judges there, and that worked out fine. I was one of them. And the next table over was Billy, along with some other hams, so I got to say hi to her. And we were judging science fair projects that involve space, and we had 3 good ones. Our next event, other than our meeting, is going to be a Girl Scout event, which is going to be at the Whispering, what do they call it? Whispering Cedars, Camp Whispering Cedars, which is near Camp Wisdom up on that hill. It's going to be on Saturday, March the 19th. And this is the Society of Women Engineers Design Your World STEM Conference for Girls. It's a scouting event. That's all I've got for now. This is N5BB.
Thanks, Bill. And it was great seeing you at the Science and Engineering Fair also. And as Bill mentioned, the National Space Society of North Texas has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box and request access, and you'll receive meeting reminders and club activities. Now we're up to discussion topic of the evening. So I've chosen for my topic, what's inside a black hole? So this article comes to us from SciTechDaily.com. as an article published by University of Michigan on February 14, 2022. What's inside a black hole? Physicists probe holographic duality with quantum computing to find out. Dude, what if everything around us was just a hologram? The thing is, it could be. And a University of Michigan physicist is using quantum computing and machine learning to better understand the idea called holographic duality. Holographic duality is a mathematical conjecture that connects theories of particles and their interactions with the theory of gravity. This conjecture suggests that the theory of gravity and the theory of particles are mathematically equivalent. What happens mathematically in the theory of gravity happens in the theory of particles and vice versa. Both theories describe different dimensions, but the number of dimensions they describe differs by one. So inside the shape of a black hole, for example, gravity exists in 3 dimensions, while a particle theory exists in 2 dimensions on its surface, a flat disk. Envision this. Think again of the black hole, which warps space-time because of its immense mass. Gravity of the black hole, which exists in 3 dimensions, connects mathematically to the particles dancing above it in 2 dimensions. Therefore, a black hole exists in a 3-dimensional space, but we see it as projected through particles. Some scientists theorize our entire universe is a holographic projection of particles, and this could lead to a consistent quantum theory of gravity. In Einstein's general relativity theory, there are no particles, there's just space-time, and in the standard model of particle physics, there's no gravity, there's just particles, said Enrico Rinaldi, a research scientist in the UM Department of Physics. Connecting the 2 different theories is a long-standing issue in physics, something people have been trying to do since the last century. A study published in the journal PRX Quantum, Rinaldi and his co-authors examined how to probe holographic duality using quantum computing and deep learning to find the energy state of mathematical problems called quantum matrix models. These quantum matrix models are representations of particle theory because holographic duality suggests that what happens mathematically in a system that represents particle theory will similarly affect a system that represents gravity. Solving such a quantum matrix model could reveal information about gravity. For the study, Rinaldi and his team used 2 matrix models simple enough to be solved using traditional methods, but which have all of the features of more complicated matrix models used to describe black holes through the holographic duality. We hope that by understanding the properties of this particle theory through the numerical experiments, we understand something about gravity, said Rinaldi, who is based in Tokyo and hosted by the Theoretical Quantum Physics Laboratory at the Cluster for Pioneering Research at Riken, Waco. Fortunately, it's still not easy to solve the particle theories, and that's where the computers can help us. Matrix models are blocks of numbers that represent objects in string theory, which is a framework in which particles in particle theory are represented by one-dimensional strings. When researchers solve matrix models like these, they are trying to find the specific configuration of particles in the system that represent the system's lowest energy state called the ground state. In the ground state, nothing happens to the system unless you add something to it that perturbs it. It's really important to understand what this ground state looks like, because then you can create things from it, Rinaldi said. So for a material, knowing the ground state is like knowing, for example, if it's a conductor, or if it's a superconductor, or if it's really strong, or if it's weak. But finding this ground state among all the possible states is quite a difficult task. That's why we're using these numerical methods. Think of the numbers in the matrix models as grains of sand, Rinaldi says. When the sand is level, that's the model's ground state. But if there are ripples in the sand, you have to find a way to level them out. To solve this, the researchers first looked to quantum circuits. In this method, the quantum circuits are represented by wires, and each qubit, or bit of quantum information, is a wire. On top of the wires are gates, which are quantum operations dictating how information will pass along the wires. You can read them as music, going from left to right, Rinaldi said. If you read it as music, you're basically transforming the qubits from the beginning into something new each step. But you don't know which operations you should do as you go along, which notes to play. The shaking process will tweak all these gates to make them take the correct form, such that at the end of the entire process, you reach the ground state. So you have all this music, and if you play it right, at the end, you'll have the ground state. Researchers then wanted to compare using this quantum circuit method to using a deep learning method. Deep learning is a kind of machine learning that uses a neural network approach, a series of algorithms that tries to find relationships in data similar to how the human brain works. Neural networks are used to design facial recognition software by being fed thousands of images of faces from which they draw particular landmarks of the face in order to recognize individual images or generate new faces of persons who do not exist. In Rinaldi's study, the researchers defined the mathematical description of the quantum state of their matrix model called the quantum wave function. Then they used a special neural network in order to find the wave function of the matrix with the lowest possible energy, its ground state. The numbers of the neural network run through an iterative optimization process to the matrix model's ground state, tapping the bucket of sand so all its grains are leveled. In both approaches, the researchers were able to find the ground state of both matrix models they examined, but the quantum circuits are limited by a small number of qubits. Current quantum hardware can only handle a few dozen of qubits. Adding lines to your music sheet becomes expensive, and the more you add, the less precisely you can play the music. Other methods people typically use can find the energy of the ground state, but not the entire structure of the wave function, Rinaldi said. We have shown how to get the full information about the ground state using these new emerging technologies, quantum computers, and deep learning. Because these matrices are one possible representation for a special type of black hole, if we know how the matrices are arranged and what their properties are, we can know, for example, what a black hole looks like on the inside. What is on the event horizon for a black hole? Where does it come from? Answering these questions would be a step towards realizing a quantum theory of gravity. The results, says Rinaldi, show an important benchmark for future work on quantum and machine learning algorithms that researchers can use to study quantum gravity through the idea of holographic duality. Next, Rinaldi is working with Nori and Hanada to study how the results of these algorithms can scale to larger matrices, as well as how robust they are against the introduction of noisy effects or interferences that can introduce errors. So Rinaldi's co-authors include Shishi Han at Stanford University, Ahmed Hassan at City College of New York, Yuan Feng at Pasadena City College, Franco Nori at and Riken, Michael McGuigan at Brookhaven National Laboratory, and Masanori Hanada at the University of Surrey. So again, this article is from SciTechDaily.com. So there's my report for this evening's net. This is KF5TDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DAR net. This time I think we'll pause and take another check-in round. So I'll pass the net back over to Tom, KE5ICX. If you'll see if we have any folks that would like to check in. And then you have my permission to pass the net over to the next presenter, which does. So I'll give the net over to you, Tom, KE5ICX from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Mr. Billy, and we'll do exactly that. We'll take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
Kilo India 5, Golf Romeo Hotel, Melissa, Dallas.
KI5, JCM, Thomas, Lewis.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Kilo India 5, Papa Golf Mike, Travis and Garland.
All right, I'm going to need a couple of fills. I wasn't expecting that many, but that's fine. I got KI5GRH. That's Melissa over in Dallas. I got you. I got KI5GPM, Golf Papa Mike Thomas, I think. Did I get that right? And what is your location? Or go ahead and correct anything I gave out.
You've got a lot of quieting. The call sign here is Kilo India 5, Juliet, Charlie, Mike, and it is Thomas in Euless. How copy?
Much better. Okay, I don't know. Well, I'm getting a lot of white noise on my radio tonight. I'm going to have to check antennas in the morning. So I'm suffering from a little bit of a disadvantage. KI5JCM, I've got you, Thomas, over in Euless, and then I got KB5SOK, that's Sean over in Fort Worth. The next station, I think, is KI5 Papa Golf Mike. Could you go ahead and give me your full call? What's your name and where you're transmitting from?
Good evening, it's Kilo India 5, Papa Golf Mike, Travis in Garland.
KI5PGM, Travis and Garland, I should have known that. All right, I stand corrected and with fills. Okay, next up is Chaz, KF5JHA with What's Up? Chaz, you're up from KE5ICX.
I hope my radio is doing well tonight because on Sunday night when I checked into the what was the net Sunday night? Anyway, for that net, my radio wasn't sounding too good from my understanding, but I'm listening to myself over on Echolink. It sounds fine. Slide Master, slide number 1. By the way, the Slide Master is Tom. That's who you just heard a minute ago. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree's in astrophysics. I'm in charge of the astrophysics lab and geology lab at the Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up. Slide number 2, please. I haven't talked about potentially hazardous asteroids, PHAs, in a while. We are monitoring over 2,200 asteroids that could, sometime in the future, run into the Earth. During the period of time from February the 5th to February 10th, 2022, just earlier this month, we had at least, what we saw, 4 asteroids come closer to the Earth than the Moon. These were, and they're numbered, so here they are, 2022 CU4, and 2022 CB3 and 2022 CP3 and 2022 CJ5. Now, on average, about every 2 weeks or so, we watch an asteroid come closer to us than the moon. Even though most of these are only 1 to 20 meters in diameter, it would make for a very bad day for some people if it hit the Earth. I will make a prediction that if over the next week we have a slow news day, that's unlikely, we would normally hear about an asteroid 138971 in the media. Why is that? It's because the asteroid is about 3/4 of a kilometer in diameter. This size of object hitting the Earth would cause some major damage. It's not going to get close to us. It's not even going to get as close to us as the moon is. It won't even be within 1 million miles of the Earth. The media, I think, needs something more to worry about sometimes, other than World War, winter storms, electricity outages, food shortages, gas lines, toilet paper shortages, drink water shortages, the COVID-19, the economy, fires in Australia, locusts in Africa. And what time Skynet is on the air. By the way, Charlie knows what time Skynet is. Now, for up-to-date information about asteroid encounters, you can check out the website spaceweather.com. You can find out all sorts of information like things heading from the sun to us that might cause shortwave outages or even maybe the northern lights in our skies. So spaceweather.com is a place to go. Slide Master, slide number 3, please. On February 23rd, the moon was at its third quarter phase, so the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. Today, on February 26th, the moon is at its perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth, at a distance of 367,789 kilometers. The new moon phase will be on March the 2nd. The moon will be at its first quarter phase on March the 10th. Also on March the 10th, the moon is at its apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth, at a distance of 404,268 kilometers. The full moon will be on March the 18th. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. The conjunction on February the 27th will be with the moon and Mars, with Venus very close by, all in the low southeastern early morning sky. So since the crescent moon is so close to Venus in the sky, you can use this to your advantage. After sunrise on that day, February 27th, that's tomorrow morning, you can spot Venus with just your 2 eyes, about the width of 1 fist at an arm's length away from the thin crescent moon, which is about 10 degrees. Venus is so bright right now that it can be seen in the daytime sky, yes, when the sun is in the sky without optical aid. I've seen Venus dozens of times during the day. It gets easier with practice. If the moon cooperates, and if the weather cooperates, you can try it tomorrow morning. Right now, the weather forecasts aren't so great for it. Slide Master, slide number 5, please. On the very next morning, the moon will be in conjunction with Mercury and Saturn, close beside them. That's going to be in the low southeastern early morning sky in strong twilight, so you'll need to probably use a pair of binoculars. Weather forecast for Monday morning is much more favorable. Slide number 6, please. March the 2nd is the next conjunction with Saturn and Mercury in the early morning southeastern sky. They're going to be about 3/4 of a degree apart, and once again, a pair of binoculars is probably going to be the best way of observing them because you might not see them with your 2 eyes since it's strong twilight. Slide number 7, please. A conjunction of our 2 closest planets, Venus and Mars, takes place on March the 13th in the early morning southeastern sky. Slide number 8, please. Facing south in the evening sky, if it were clear tonight, you could find Orion by looking at 3 stars of equal brightness in a straight line and evenly spaced. This is the belt of Orion. There are 2 bright stars above the belt stars that represent Orion's shoulders. The brighter one on the left is Betelgeuse, or Betelgeuse, that's how I usually pronounce it. And the other one to the right is Bellatrix. 2 stars below Orion's belt form Orion's knees. The one on the left is Sciath, and the one on the right is Rigel. Slide Master, slide number 9. Now, using Orion's belt and drawing down and to the left, you run into the brightest star in the sky other than the sun. It's called Sirius. Really, it's Sirius. I'm not. It's also called the dog star, so it's a doggone good star. Sirius is the brightest star in the constellation of the Big Dog, which is Canis Major. Canis Major is Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week this week. We'll talk more on that later. Slide number 10, please. Now, if you go back to Orion's belt and draw a line from the belt stars upwards to the right, you should run into the brightest stars in Taurus the Bull. The brightest star is Aldebaran. And keep on going, and just a little bit more, you'll see a little cluster of faint stars called the Pleiades. You might be able to even spot it inside the city. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Let's go to slide number 11, please. The names of the 3 stars, JJ, are Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka. Alnilam is the middle star, so I guess that's the belt buckle of Orion's belt. Slide number 11. The last Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas meeting was last night. The next one will be on March 25th. Dr. Pearson from Wyoming will be the feature speaker. I don't remember what his topic is going to be. Okay, let's see now. Observing sessions have been placed on hold because of COVID. If you want more information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, you can get it at the website, texasastro.org. Slide number 12, please. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question or need a fill on any of the information? Or do you just have a general question on astronomy? I don't know everything, but I might know the answer to your question. Or someone else here on the net might know the answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you need a fill or have a question. I'm so glad you didn't ask me where babies come from. Slide Net Master, slide number 13. So as the moon wanes at the end of February, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until next week, actually I'll be doing another Skynet segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. Also pray for the people of Ukraine. This is KF5 JHA, back to our net control, KF5 PDS. Dr. Billy.
Thank you, Chad. This is KF5 CDS. My name is Billy, and this is your net control for this session of the DIRC Skynet. All right, next up is space exploration and space history. So at this time, I'll go over to Kelly, K5KTX. The net is yours.
Thank you, Billy. This is K5KTX, Kelly, and just wanted to give everyone an additional update about the James Webb Space Telescope. The telescope continues on its path to becoming a focused observatory. The team has successfully worked through the second and third out of 7 total phases of mirror alignment. With the completion of these phases, called segment alignment and image stacking, the team will now begin making smaller adjustments to the positions of Webb's mirrors. After moving what were 18 scattered dots of starlight into Webb's signature hexagonal formation, the team refined each mirror segment's image by making minor adjustments while also changing the alignment of Webb's secondary mirror. The completion of this process, known as segment alignment, was a key step prior to overlapping the light from all mirrors so that they can work in unison. alignment was achieved, the focused dots reflected by each mirror were then stacked on top of each other, delivering photons of light from each segment to the same location on NIRCam's sensor. During this process, called image stacking, the team activated sets of 6 mirrors at a time and commanded them to repoint their light to overlap until all dots of starlight overlapped with each other. Although image stacking put all of the light from a star in one place on NIRCam's detector, the mirror segments are still as 18 small telescopes rather than one big one. The segments now need to be lined up to each other with an accuracy smaller than the wavelength of the light. The team is now starting the 4th phase of mirror alignment, known as coarse phasing, where NIRCam is used to capture light spectra from 20 separate pairings of mirror segments. This helps the team identify the correct vertical displacement between the mirror segments or small differences in their heights. This will make the single dot of starlight progressively sharper and more focused in the coming weeks. Now, in space history for this past week, beginning with February the 20th, 1962, at 9:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, astronaut John Glenn launched in Friendship 7 on Mercury Atlas 6. He was the first American to orbit the Earth. After the planned 3 orbits, with some worry about whether his heat shield was in the proper place, Glenn splashed down near Grand Turk Island in the Caribbean. That summer, Friendship 7 went around the world again on a 30-city tour. The capsule was seen in person by about 4 million people in Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Americas over the course of 3 months. A year after the launch, Friendship 7 landed at the National Air and Space Museum, Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., where it can still be seen today. On February the 21st, 2007, it was announced that NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope had captured enough light from exoplanets to identify molecular signatures in their atmospheres. Spitzer obtained the spectra for 2 exoplanets, HD 189733b, which resides in Vulpecula, constellation 370 trillion miles away, and HD 209458b, 904 trillion miles away in the Pegasus constellation. These planets are known as hot Jupiters because they are gas giants, but they orbit much closer to their respective stars, making them much hotter than the gas giants in our solar system. The use of Spitzer spectrograph to identify molecules in the atmosphere of a planet so far away was a major achievement. It was also a significant step toward being able to detect signs of life on other planets. On February the 22nd in 2006, the Hubble Space Telescope discovery of 2 new moons of Pluto was confirmed. The first evidence of the moons came in observations in mid-2005, but it took follow-up observations in mid-February 2006 to confirm the findings. Astronomers using Hubble's Advanced Camera for Surveys found that the newly discovered moons, later named Nix and Hydra, orbit on the same plane as the already known and much larger moon Charon. This finding added evidence for the theory that the moons of Pluto were born from a collision between 2 Pluto-sized objects over 4 billion years ago. In 2011, a 4th moon of Pluto, Kerberos, was announced, and in 2012, a 5th one was discovered and named Styx. On February the 23rd, 1987, astronomers first spotted the supernova they would go on to call supernova 1987A. The Titanic supernova is the brightest since 1604. Supernova 1987A was discovered independently by Ian Shelton and Oscar Duhalde at the Los Campanos Observatory in Chile on February 24th, 1987, and within the same 24 hours by Albert Jones in New Zealand. Later investigations found photographs showing the supernova brightening rapidly early on February the 23rd. It was the first supernova that modern astronomers were able to study in great detail. Supernova 1987A provided the first opportunity to confirm by direct observation the radioactive source of the energy for visible light emissions by detecting predicted gamma ray line radiation from 2 of its abundant radioactive nuclei. This proved the radioactive nature of long-duration post-explosion glow of supernovae. On February the 24th, back in 1969, Mariner 6 launched. Mariner 6 and 7 comprised a dual spacecraft mission to Mars, the 6th and 7th missions in the Mariner series of spacecraft used for planetary exploration in the flyby mode. The dual mission flew over the equator and south polar regions, analyzed the Martian atmosphere and surface with remote sensors, and recorded and relayed close-up pictures of the surface. A primary objective of the mission was to establish the basis for future investigations, particularly those relevant to the search for extraterrestrial life, and to demonstrate and develop technologies required for future Mars missions and other long-duration missions far from the Sun. The Mariner series of probes established the foundation of our knowledge of Mars, allowing us to progress to where we currently stand with 2 operational Mars rovers, 1 lander, and a crewed mission to Mars planned for 2030s or beyond. Also on February the 24th, back in 2011, Space Shuttle Discovery lifted off from NASA's Kennedy Space Center on her final mission, STS-133. Destination, the International Space Station. The crew was Steve Lindsay, Eric Bowe, Alan Drew, Nicole Stott, Stephen Bowen, and Michael Barat. After this mission, Discovery was retired and is now on display at the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum. And on this date, February the 26th, 2014, the NASA Kepler mission team announced the discovery of 715 new planets, orbiting 305 different stars. This trove of data showed that multi-planet solar systems like our own appeared to be common. Nearly 95% of these newly discovered planets were small, which is almost 4 times the size of Earth. This discovery marked a significant increase in the number of known small-sized planets more akin to Earth. Launched in 2009 for a 3.5-year mission, the Kepler spacecraft was retired on October 30th, 2018 after discovery of over 2,600 exoplanets. And finally, in astronaut birthdays for this past week, we have February the 20th, 1921, Joseph Walker, who was on 3 X-15 flights, 77, 90, and 91. And then February the 24th, on 1964, we have Mark and Scott Kelly. Mark Kelly was on Space Shuttle missions STS-108, 121, 124, and 134. And Scott Kelly was on Space Shuttle missions STS-103, 118. He was part of Expedition 2526. And then his long-duration 1-year flight was Expeditions 43, 44, 45, and 46. Astronaut birthday on February the 22nd, 1952, James Bagian, Space Shuttle missions STS-29 and STS-40. And then one of my favorite astronauts, born on February 23rd, 1959, Clayton Anderson. He was on Space Shuttle mission STS-117, part of Expedition 15 and 16, and then he came down on STS-120, and he was also on Space Shuttle mission STS-131. And finally, February the 26th, today, 1958, Susan Helms. She was on Space Shuttle missions STS-54, 64, 78, 101, and then she was on Expedition 2. And that's all I've got this evening. This is K5KTX. Back to you, Billy.
Thanks very much, Kelly. This is KF5TDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. So at this time, I'll return the net to Chaz, KF5JHA. The net is yours.
Why, thank you, net control. Miss Carolyn's Consol. Oh, this is slide master, slide number 14. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019 with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. That's about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we've continued the tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week this week is Canis Major, the big dog. Now, if you attended the Texas Astronomical Society meeting last night, guess what the constellation of the month was for them? The same. So I might be repeating, all the same jokes I used last night. Canis Major's name means the greater dog in Latin. Canis Major represents the bigger dog following Orion, the hunter. In Greek mythology, the dog is often depicted pursuing a hare, and we've talked about Lepus, the hare, haven't we? Slide Master, slide number 15. This is the jokes of the week. I'll be looking over at Echolink in case somebody wants to answer the questions I have for you. What does my dog and cell phone have in common? Kelly, you can't answer this because you heard all these jokes last night. Okay, I'm waiting. I'm sure JJ has something for this. What does my dog and phone have in common? Caller ID. Get it? Caller. Okay, fine. What do you get when you cross a dog and a calculator? A friend you can count on. What do you call a cold canine? A chili dog. Unfortunately, you can't get your chili dog at baseball because that's been postponed. What happened to the dog that swallowed a firefly? It barked with delight. Oh my, I almost mixed up my words. What happened to the dog that ate nothing but garlic? His bark was worse than his bite. A three-legged dog walks into a bar and says, what? I'm looking for the guy who shot my paw, P-A-W. Oh, I have another one that JJ told online. Oh, JJ, repeat it again. I can't remember what it was. What was the one that you told me about a dog? Oh, yeah. What do you call a dog that keeps on escaping from his yard? He was renamed Rover. Okay, that's JJ's joke, but you can laugh at it. That's fine. Slide Master, slide number 16, please. Sirius, we talked about that just a few minutes ago, Alpha Canis Majoris. The name Sirius, of course, means sparkling one, or more frequently, the scorching one, compared to the name Ceres, with the English verb to sear, which means to burn or to scorch. They both originate from the ancient Greek word seros, which means scorching. Sirius is known as the dog star because it is the prominent star in Canis Major, Orion's great hunting dog. In ancient times, as it does today, Sirius rose with the sun near the start of summer in the northern hemisphere. And ancient people believed that the hot days of summer was caused by Sirius's heat in addition to that of our sun. So Sirius's position in the dog star gave rise to the phrase, the dog days of summer. Well, how about that? At magnitude minus 1.47, Sirius is the brightest star in the nighttime sky as viewed from the Earth. At 8.7 light years away, it is among the closest stars to the sun. This contributes greatly to the preeminence of the brightest star in the sky, because while Sirius is intrinsically brighter and is larger than the sun, it is still a main sequence star and not a giant or supergiant star. Compare Sirius to Canopus. We've talked about Canopus being the second brightest star in the sky, and right now, if we could go out and take a look, Sirius is in the south, and way down to the south, only about 4 degrees high in the south sky, is Canopus. So compare Sirius to Canopus, the second brightest star in the sky. Canopus shines at a magnitude of minus 0.72 as seen for the Earth, yet it is about 300 light years away. Imagine what it would be like if it were only 8 light years away. You'd probably need sunscreen. Sirius is the white star with a white dwarf companion, Sirius B, which is often called the pup. Sirius B is notoriously difficult to observe because it's only magnitude 8.3 and is often lost on the overwhelming glare from Sirius itself. Sirius A and B are currently 9 arc seconds apart, heading toward a maximum of 11.5 arc seconds in the year 2025, just in a few years from now. Attempting to split this double star is a good test of your optics and the seeing conditions. It's difficult to do, but it might be a little bit easier over the next few years. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. We're staying on slide 16, please. Epsilon, Canis majoris, Adara, is derived from the Arabic word which means virgins, which may originate from an ancient Arabic legend in which Canis Major and Canis Minor were not dogs, but instead were 2 human sisters. Adara is a double star with a 7.5 magnitude companion. In telescopes, Adara appears as a bright white primary and is much fainter white companion. The companion does not jump out at first, but eventually you can see it. Alderdra, similar to Adara, means virgin, another apparent reference to the Arabic 2 sisters legend about Canis Major and Canis Minor. It is a variable star varying from 2.38 to 2.48. It's not a very much in magnitude variation. It is an alpha Cygni type variable star, giving it an appearance of an apparent irregular period. It appears white in a telescope. There are many nearby stars in the field of view surrounding it, all of varying brightnesses. Slide number 17, please. This object, M41, is something that I look at with our students at the college all the time, because you can see it from the college even though we have a lot of light pollution. It's an open cluster which can be seen even with the naked eye from dark sky sites. And a telescope, M41, may fill the field of view of your lowest power eyepiece. You can see varying colors of stars. Some look orange while other ones are white or blue-white. There are many stars of varying brightness. Some appearance to arrange themselves in short lines or streaks. There is one particularly bright star in the extreme edge of the cluster. Slide number 18, please. NGC, that's a new general catalog, 2360 is an open cluster that is easily noticeable as a fuzzy patch in the finder scope. It's a pretty cluster and fits nicely in the field of view of medium power eyepiece. Unlike M41, it has many different star brightnesses. Most of the stars in the NGC 2360 look about the same brightness. The star colors are also all about the same, white or blue-white. The cluster looks pretty at low power also, and the field stars surrounding it make a nice, pleasing sight. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 19, please. Here are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Canis Major, the big dog. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has about 73 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year. And Slide Master, slide number 20, that is Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week, Canis Major, the big dog. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on the deep sky objects that I've used, borrowed, and I steal for tonight and every week. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. The next time I'll take a look at another doggone good constellation, Canis Minor, the little dog, and also Monoceros, the unicorn. Yep, that's it. And this is KF5JHA sending this net backdoor net control. Dr. Billy, KF5 PDS, it's all yours again. Good night, everyone.
Thank you very much, Chaz. All right, next up is space launches for this week, so I'll turn the Tom, KE5ICX. If you'll do a quick check-in round and confirm, my link disconnected me right when I thought we had 24, so if you could do a quick check-in and see if there's anybody on frequency that would like to check in and get me another count for this evening's net, I'd appreciate it. To KE5ICX from KF5PDS.
I will do exactly that. This is KE5ICX. Let's go ahead and take another round of check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. All right, hearing none. That's okay. We will move on. Let's see here. We're going to talk about launches. Somebody asked me about what I was wearing tonight. I'm wearing a Halifax Mooseheads sweatshirt because it's cold in here. So this is a hockey team, the Mooseheads. They're really good. They're Mises. Okay, let's see. We have coming up. By the way, I get all this information from Spaceflight Now launch schedule. You can check these. Why would you want to check them? Because virtually every single one of these launches is televised. So if you want to watch live, all you have to do is probably go to space.com and it will actually let you know that there are updates. And I think spaceflightnow.com might do it as well. At any rate, here we go. February 28th, we do have a launch. It's called Stryax Beta with the Beta Greek letter, and it says Launch Complex 1B, Mahia Peninsula in New Zealand, a Rocket Lab Electron launch of the Stryax Beta synthetic aperture radar satellite from SIN's Perspective, a Japanese Earth imaging company, is developing spacecraft for planned constellation of more than 30 small radar observation satellites to collate data of metropolitan centers across Asia on a daily basis that can be used for urban development planning, construction, and infrastructure monitoring and disaster response. Interesting. March 1st, we have a launch from Launch Complex 41 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. This will be a United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket with a GOES-T, the third next-generation geostationary weather satellite for NASA and NOAA. GOES-T will orbit at 22,300 miles above the equator to monitor weather conditions across the United States. The rocket will fly in the 541 vehicle configuration with a 5-meter fairing, 4 solid rocket boosters, and a single-engine Centaur upper stage. See that? 541. March 3rd, we have Falcon 9 Starlink launch. This is from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. And Falcon 9 rocket will launch with another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. Boy, they don't even say how many or what anymore. There's so many of them. On March 4th, there'll be a launch of a Soyuz from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The Russian Soyuz rocket marketed by Arianespace will launch 36 into orbit for OneWeb, which is developing a constellation of hundreds of satellites in low Earth orbit for low latency broadband communications. The Soyuz 2.1B rocket will use a Fregat upper stage. On March 8th, be another Falcon 9 launch, this from Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch with another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. Surprise! Sometime in March, we'll have an Electron launch again from the Hyatt Peninsula in New Zealand. This will be Launch Complex 1A. The Rocket Lab Electron rocket will launch with two small second-generation satellites for the Black Sky commercial fleet of Earth observation spacecraft. Rocket Lab has nicknamed this mission Without Mission, a Beat. Without Mission, a Beat. We have a to be determined. This one is an SSLB launch from Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota, India. This is a small satellite launch vehicle. Will launch its first orbital test flight consisting of 3 solid-fueled stages and a liquid-fueled upper stage. The SSLB is a new Indian launch vehicle designed to carry small satellites into low Earth orbit. Also from the same center, to be determined. I guess they've given up on a date for now. Again, an SSLB launch, commercial mission. This one for Black Sky Global. This is a rideshare mission with Black Sky. Is being arranged by Spaceflight. So there you have it. That's it for now. So I'm going to send this back to Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX. Back to net control.
Thank you very much, Tom. All right, next up is recent astronomical discoveries. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Brenda, WB5OZL from KF5TDS.
Thank you, Billy. This is WB5OZL. The title of this article is Astronomers Map Mysterious Element in Space. A research team led by Lund University in Sweden has provided an important clue to the origin of the element ytterbium in the Milky Way by showing that the element largely originates from supernova explosions. The groundbreaking research also provides new opportunities for studying the evolution of our galaxy. The study is published in Astronomy and Astrophysics. Ytterbium is one of 4 elements in the periodic table named after the Ytterby mine in the Stockholm archipelago. The element was first discovered in the black mineral gadolinite, which was first identified in the Ytterby mine in 1787. Ytterbium is interesting because it may have 2 different cosmic origins. Researchers believe that one half comes from heavy stars with short lives, while the other half comes from more regular stars, much like the Sun, and that they create ytterbium in the final stages of their relatively long lives. By studying stars formed at different times in the Milky Way, we have been able to investigate how fast the ytterbium in the content increased in the galaxy. What we have succeeded in doing is adding relatively young stars to the study, says Martin Montelius, astronomy researcher at Lund University at the time of the research and now at the University of Groningen. It has been speculated that ytterbium was thrown into space by supernova explosions, stellar winds, and planetary nebulae. There, it accumulated in large space clouds from which new stars formed. By examining high-quality spectra of about 30 stars in the Sun's vicinity, the researchers were able to provide important experimental support for the theory of the cosmic origin of ytterbium. It seems that ytterbium largely originates from supernova explosions. The instrument we used is a super-sensitive spectrometer that can detect infrared light in high resolution. It was used with 2 telescopes in the southern United States, one in Arizona and one in Texas, says Martin Montelius. Since the ytterbium analysis was done using infrared light, it will now be possible to study large areas of the Milky Way that lie in the same way that red light that lie behind impenetrable dust. Infrared light can get through the dust in the same way that red light from a sunset can get through the Earth's atmosphere. Our study opens up the possibility of mapping extensive parts of the Milky Way that have been previously unexplored. This means that we will be able to compare the evolutionary history of different parts of the galaxy, concludes Rebecca Forsberg, doctoral student in astronomy at Lund University. And that's the end. This is from ScienceDaily.com. And back to net, this is WB50ZL.
Thanks, Brenda. We're running a little short on time, so for visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, I'll give you the website. It's www.heavens-above.com. Again, that's www.heavens-above.com. This website you can go to find out what's in orbit and where to look during flyovers. There's all kinds of cool information on the Heavens Above website. All right, at this time, I'm going it back over to Tom one more time to see if we have any final check-ins, and then get a final count for this evening's net. So this is to KE5ICX from KF5TDS.
And this is KE5ICX. I'll go ahead and take a final round of check-ins. If you'd like to make yourself known that you were listening to the net, I will take your check-in now. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Well, they're being awful quiet out there. So I have last check-in was Travis, so that brings a total of 24 for this evening. Ms. Billy, back to you from KE5ICX.
Normal state.
That's Tom. Copy that tonight we had 24 hams participating on the air. So thanks to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of
I'm
this
completely
net.
operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
This is
Afterglow moving
KF5TS
net.
Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:29 local time and returning your repeater to normal amateur use. 7-3, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And remember, following Skynet is the Afterglow movie net, where tonight will be discussed 1968 Barbarella. 7-3, everybody.
All right, and this is KE5ICX. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and we'll start the net for the 1968 very strange movie, Barbarella, starring Jane Fonda. So come on back in 5 minutes. about 5 minutes. So we'll start the net. Let's see. This is the Afterglow movie net. I guess I'll be your net control. I didn't ask anybody else to do it. So, but one of these days you'll be shamed and want to do net control because I'll be here and I'll be hoarse and I won't be able to speak and it'll be all over, and then you'll have to step in and step over my lifeless body and then do this net. So this week's movie is Barbarella from 1968. So I'm going to tell you about the movie, and then I will tell you the rules, checking in on the net, and how you can participate. So here we go. In an unspecified future, space adventurer Barbarella is assigned by the President of Earth to retrieve Dr. Durand, you heard me right, from the Tau Ceti planetary system. Durand is the inventor of the laser-powered superweapon called the positronic ray, which Earth leaders fear will fall into the wrong hands. Barbarella crash lands on Tau Ceti's 16th planet and is knocked unconscious by 2 children. They bring her to the wreckage of a spaceship where she is bound and attacked by several dolls with razor-sharp teeth. Barbarella is rescued by Mark Han, the catchman who patrols the ice looking for errant children. Han tells her that Durand is in the city of Sogo and offers to take her back to her ship in his ice boat. She expresses her appreciation, assuring him that her government will certainly provide him recompense for his troubles and let her know in the meantime whether there's anything he needs or she can do for him. Han says, "You could let me make love to you." Barbarella expresses confusion because for centuries people of Earth don't have intimate physical encounters unless their psychocardiogram readings are in perfect confluence. She capitulates, but skeptical, and proceeds to ask him for pills which on Earth are used to enhance non-sexual sensual experience until full rapport is achieved. I didn't write this. And suggests having sex in his bed instead, which Barbarella is initially put off by. He tells him that Earth only poor people who can't afford psychocardiograms and pills engage in such primitive, distracting, and inefficient activities, since other activities successfully provide ego support and self-esteem. However, she relents and discovers she enjoys it, although admitting she understands why on Earth sex is considered distracting. And this is KE5ICX. I admit it. Barbarella leaves the planet and crashes into a labyrinth inhabited by outcasts from Sogo. She is found by Pygar, a blind angel who has lost the will to fly. Pygar introduces her to Professor Payne, who offers to repair Barbarella's ship. Pygar flies her to Sogo after she restores his will to fly after having sex with him, of course. When they arrive, Pygar and Barbarella are captured by Sogo's Black Queen and her concierge. The concierge describes the Mathmos, living energy in liquid form powered by evil thoughts and used as an energy source at Sogo. Pygar endures a mock crucifixion, and Barbarella is placed in a cage where hundreds of birds prepare to attack her. She is rescued by Dildano, leader of the local underground, who joins in her pursuit for Durand. Dildano offers her an invisible key to the Chamber of Dreams where the Queen sleeps and sends her back to Sogo. Barbarella is promptly recaptured by the concierge. He places her in an excessive pleasure machine, which induces fatal sexual pleasure. She outlasts the machine, which shuts down. The concierge, shocked by its destruction, is revealed as Durand, who has aged 30 years due to Mathmos. He wants to become Sogo's new leader and overthrow the Black Queen, which requires his positronic ray and access to the Chamber of Dreams. Durand takes Barbarella to the chamber, locking her inside with the invisible key. She meets the Queen, who says that if 2 people are in the chamber, Mathmos will devour them. Durand seizes control of Sogo, and Dildano and his rebels begin their attack on the city. Black Queen retaliates, releasing the mass-most to destroy Sogo. Protected by what the Black Queen calls Barbarella's innocence, they escape the mass-most and find Pygar. The angel clutches them in his arms and flies off. When Barbarella asks Pygar why he saved a tyrant, he replies, "An angel has no memory." And you may not have a memory of this movie, but I've brought it back to you. Okay, here's the rules. What we're going to do is we'll go through 3 passes through everyone who checks in on this movie. You'll be asked first to check in, so you'll give me your call sign, your name. You can give me your location if you like, but I really need to know whether you saw the movie or not. Having seen the movie or not seen the movie is not important. If you haven't seen the movie, we're going to ask you, point blank, would you want to see this movie? And does it remind you of a better movie you may have seen? So you have plenty of things to say, even if you are not, have not seen the movie. So we'll ask on the first round, what did you think about the plot? On the second round, we'll ask you about the acting and or characterization. On the third round, we'll probably ask you about everything else, the special effects, things like that. It all depends on how many people check in. So the last round is everything, and then we'll ask you if you have any final comments, and we'll take whoever has any comments, and that'll probably end it around, usually around midnight, maybe a little before. It all depends. So here we go. I will now take check-ins. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and did you see, what is this movie? Oh yes, Barbarella from 1968. Please come now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill and Irving. Yes, I saw this movie.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. I also saw the movie.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo, Zulu Whiskey, J, near Weatherford. I saw the movie. Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, Cruise in Arlington. I saw the film.
Okay, we got 4. I think there'll be others. A few folks may be on the traffic net, so they will come back over here in a little bit, I'm sure. I've got N5DV Bill over in Irving. He saw the movie. NT5TM Tony in Dallas. Yep, he saw the movie. KG5BZW Jay near Weatherford. Yep, he saw the movie. NKI5KWG Cruz. Yes, he saw the movie. Let's continue. Do I have additional check-ins? I do see some folks on Echolink. I'll get you in just a moment. Do I have additional check-ins on the air who would like to check in? Tonight's movie is Barbarella, so please come with your call sign name and did you see the film?
This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda DeSoto, and I did see the movie.
Okay, very good. I picked up WB5OZL, Miss Brenda DeSoto. She saw the movie. I'll go to Echolink now. Anybody there who would like to check in? I see a few folks that are only on Echolink and have not checked in. So if you'd like to join us, please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see Barbarella? Echolink.
Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, and yes, I saw the film.
Okay, 1 on there, our net control from the previous net, KF5 PDS, Miss Billy, she did see the movie. So let's do this. We're going to go, let me go ahead and ask one more time. Anyone else like to check in? Please come down. Okay, no problem. We usually have some stragglers that'll show up in a little bit. So I'll go in the order that y'all checked in. So I'm going to start with Bill, N5BB. Bill, your thoughts on the plot to Barbarella from 1968.
Plot? What plot? This is N5BB. Well, it came from a comic book, evidently. And it was produced by Dino De Laurentiis, who was known for some over-the-top things, and directed by Roger Vadim, who was known for these extremely sexual kind of films with some violence in them. Anyway, and of course included Jane Fonda, who is Vadim's wife at the time. And let's see, the plot. There was a plot here. The plot was stupid. I mean, it could have been okay, but the details, the more you looked at the details, the more it was stupid. The overall plot was, I guess, reasonable for a comic book movie, but the detailed parts of the plot were just not very reasonable. Didn't make much sense. A lot of stupid things occurred in the movie. The more you looked at the details, the more you said, what? This is merely a comic book. It's not anything related to a science fiction movie or something, really. It's a fantastic thing. So, I don't know. Let's see. What about the plot? Let's see. What other things do I have written down here that are plot related? Of course, the angel thing, you may realize that in part of the movie, he was essentially crucified in a pose that looks like some of the famous paintings done of Christ on the cross, Jesus on the cross. So that was kind of over the top. Let's see, other plot things. You remember the Barbarella gets caught in this bubble with all these birds? Look, okay, this was in 1968. Guess what happened 5 years earlier? There was the famous movie, Alfred Hitchcock, The Birds, with Tippi Hedren fighting off all these birds attacking her. That had to be where that came from. I mean, that scene was modeled after what happened in The Birds. The positronic rays looks just like all the death rays from James Bond and other goofy movies. The bubbles, remember all the bubbles of the Matamos or whatever? That looked like lava lamps. I know you young people don't know what I'm talking about, but lava lamps were these things back in the 60s. Just when this came out was when lava lamps were kind of brand new. They had heated wax in them, and they bubbled up. A similar effect was used in The Prisoner. So that was this obvious meme. Other things about the plot. At the end of the movie, how did they know where to fly to the spaceship? Because what's his name? Professor Ping had moved it somewhere else. They had moved it somewhere else remotely. So how did they know where to go to it? Because Ping was gone. He'd gone to the fourth dimension or whatever. As far as the plot, I've got a quote near the end by Durand. By the way, of course, there was the famous band Duran that dropped the D from those two words. The quote was, "You win, Barbarella, but the Earth has lost its last great dictator." Whoopie-doo. Another quote I have is, before Have You No Shame, Barbarella says, "My goodness." This is kind of a quote that describes how James Fonda played that character. Oh, my goodness. In 5EB.
All right, thank you, Bill. Now, Bill, you wandered off and went into special effects, or as we like to call them here on the Afterglow Movie Net, the not-so-special effects. All right, next up is Tony. Tony, your thoughts on the plot from the 1968 movie Barbarella, starring Jane Fonda and Marcel Marceau.
Well, thank you, Tom. I had long known there was this person who used to be famous named James Fonda, and okay, she's some famous person. Well, now I know what she was famous for. The episodic structure of the plot was very obvious from the comic books. You could really see how Barbarella has an airplane crash. Barbarella is menaced by children. Barbarella is menaced by angry parakeets. Barbarella is menaced by lava. These little episodes, very almost disconnected from one another. They could have been part of an old serial or a series of TV episodes or something like that, except they were all in a movie. The plot was therefore not entirely coherent, and I think it could have used a bit more comic relief. There were some nice little asides and witticisms. I do remember her at one point saying, "Scream. Those often lead to interesting dramatic situations." To the camera. The most important and exciting moment in the plot came at 1 hour and 11 minutes into the movie, when both she and Dildano correctly say the name of that Welsh village with the 58 character name. That's the secret password chosen by the resistance, apparently on the assumption that everyone can say it, right? Sort of dreamy and incoherent, but hey, that was the vibe, the kind of psychedelic vibe the movie was going for. Some comic relief would have liked a little more in spots. I was surprised to learn that it was a big success at the time, and hey, it was at least fun. NT5TM.
All right, thank you, Tony. And yeah, that was the most impressive thing in the whole movie, was being able to come up with and say that password. Come on, everybody can do supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, but nobody can do whatever that password was so effortlessly as was performed in the movie. That's Academy Award stuff. Uh-oh, I lost my pen. I can't write anything. Hold on. All right, very good. Next up is Jay near Weatherford, and Jay is near Weatherford. We are far away from Weatherford, so KG5VZW. Jay, your thoughts on the plot to Barbarella from 1968 from KE5ICX.
This is KG5BZW. It's hard to come up with something that hasn't already been said. I'll add to in any other movie, it'd be like just a dumb thing, but because it's because of that other. Well, of course, I think that second joke came afterwards, but it's like telling the blind angel to watch out. Yeah, that was like. Oh my goodness. Was the signal right there that you're not supposed to take the film very seriously? I don't know. It was definitely ruled by I'm not quoting TV tropes or anything, but there's the trope of the rule of awesome, which or the rule of wacky. I don't know. It's kind of it's not really so much awesome, but just very weird and hypersexual, and they're busy creating new colorful clutter for you to look at while sweeping back the old clutter that doesn't really make sense, and it just kind of pulls you forward. There's I don't know. There's just not really much to say. I agree. It could have used a little bit more humor with it, Tony. That's what I meant to say. Golly. And slipping into the special effects. It's hard not to comment on. I mean, it's fantasy that but it's like the certain special effects that don't really even make sense to the plot. Wow. I don't know what those flying scenes just did that didn't really make sense. The motion and the stopping and all of that. I almost have to say that also was a clue that, hey, no, we're not really trying to make anything really thought intensive here. Just lick your stamps and smoke your butts and enjoy the film, I guess. I don't know. KG5BCW.
All right, thank you, Jay. And next up is Cruz, KI5KWG. You might want to speak up a little bit. I had a little trouble hearing you, so just do what I do and just shout into the microphone and shake your fist for effect, because that's what I do all the time. So KI5KWG, what did you think of the plot?
Well, I'm usually out on my back porch, but it's a little quiet for that. A little cold for that, so we'll hope I can get through here. I'm going to give this a go here. The plot is her assignment is to go find Duran Duran because he has invented a weapon, and contemporary society doesn't have weapons. It also doesn't know much about physical forms of human sexuality. Two interesting things that I think come together towards the end. Now, mostly, this is exploitation based on a comic strip about a superhero. French romance. So now what we have at the end of the plot resolution is Barbarella succeeding in her mission, tracking down Duran Duran. But in the process, she rediscovers the human sexuality physically. And also, interestingly, joins and assists an uprising to overthrow a government. I think that guy's name was Deland that she connected with for that. So that was my take on the plot. Don't know how well I'm being read, so I'll go ahead and break here and back to Ned.
All right, thank you, Cruz. You faded a little bit there in the middle, but we picked you up. I don't know if you're on a handy-talkie or something, but at the very beginning we heard you fine, and then you kind of faded into the noise a little bit, and then at the very end your signal came back. So whatever you did at the very beginning and at the very end seems to work. So repeat that on the next round. Very good. At least you have something to say about the plot. No one else has been able to venture forward with that. Next up is Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, what did you think of the plot to this motion picture, Barbarella from 1968? This is KE5ICX.
This is WB5OZL. The plot was not overly complicated. Fans of this kind of movie could easily follow it. I couldn't. I'm just not smart enough. I didn't understand the plot. It just seemed to be, I don't know. It just seemed to wander around an awful lot. I didn't understand what Barbarella did for a living. She was all alone in the spaceship, just flying around. And, but she probably didn't make much money because she couldn't afford clothes. I think that the constant nudity was kind of cheap. It was the 60s, 68. And I'm sure that Stanley Kubrick looked at this in 68 when he made 2001, and he probably worried that this would give 2001 a lot of competition. And so I'm sure he was concerned about that. Plot. Somebody would explain it to me, that'd be good, because I didn't understand any of it. But I don't think they intended to have a plot. I think it's just randomness. Let's go over here and do this, let's go over there and do that. But a lot of good movies, like Lord of the Rings, did that. Let's march and fight and march and fight and march and fight. So lots of movies who are just made up of a bunch of random events just kind of stuck together, and this was definitely one. Okay, back to net, WB5OZL.
Oh no, I thought it was pretty straightforward, but I'll breach my, when it's my turn, I'll ask. KF5PDS, Miss Billy, your on the plot to Barbarella from 1968.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, this is like the ultimate campy B-movie space romp. This is, Fonda in her, really sexual sex kitten phase, so it's this campy, super silly, romp. She's this highly rated, they describe her as an astronautical aviatrix, but she crash lands twice on the planet, and it's like she gets herself into these life-threatening situations over and over again, and is consistently bailed out by the male figures on the planet. So it just seems to be like her mission is the president of Earth sends her to Tau Ceti to retrieve Duran Duran and I guess contain the positronic ray because they're worried it's going to fall into the wrong hands. And so they want her to go and get him. And it's like, well, if they get him and bring him back to Earth, he's bringing this weapon back to Earth. It's like, what good is that going to do? Are they just wanting to hold him there and just have them never use it to keep him safe, from distributing this weapon across the galaxy? That's what I got from it. So they send her on this mission. They list her as a space adventurer. So I guess they just call upon her whenever adventure in space is needed to go run these errands and take care of these dastardly, people. So we just happen to catch up with her as she is in between missions, and she gets assigned to this task, and we get to join her on this trek across the galaxy to Tau Ceti to find Duran Duran and bring him back to Earth. So that's, you know, what I got. To me, that's a very straightforward plot, but it does get lost in a lot of silly side things. You know, there are a lot of these side adventures, you know, sub-adventures, you know, little subplots that she gets, you know, sucked into and spun around, you know, so it just kind of goes around in a circle. And during this whole time when she's trying to find Duran Duran, she actually encounters him several times without realizing that it's him. And she is supposed to have a device on her to detect him, but she doesn't detect him until the very, very end when it accidentally gets switched on. It's like, I thought she would have the thing switched on the whole time so that the first time he appeared, he would immediately have been recognized. But I guess if they had done that, we wouldn't have had a movie. So can't be too logical with these things. But, you know, to me, it's just, you know, straightforward plot that got, as other people say, kind of got spun around, and she goes off on these tangents. I'm right with Tony with the campy lines. You know, you had tears of screaming, and she said, yeah, a good deal of many dramatic situations begin with screaming. And I also enjoyed the line when she was getting attacked by the birds, saying this is much too poetic a way to die. So I found that funny and a great line. I thought at the beginning, you know, she immediately falls prey to these children who attack her with these chewing dolls, and then she's rescued by a male character, and then I know I'm deviating into characterization, but this is every time the plot she does in pursuit of Dr. Duran, she gets in all these life-threatening situations and continually has to be bailed out over and over again. So I wonder about her abilities. You know, as a space adventurer, she kind of seems to just luck her way through. But, you know, she wins out in the end, and everything is good, and it all ends well. So it is a good campy romp. Plot gets lost in some silliness, but, you know, to me, that's just all part of the deal. If you're going to be campy, you've got to go all the way. I've always said that. You can't just kind of halfway do it, or else it won't come across the way it should, you know, to be this fun, colorful, psychedelic, as other people said, you know, late 60s. It really plays into psychedelia. And, you know, that's just all part of the mood, and it's almost like she lives inside of a lava lamp, you know, just the cool bubbles and everything. After that, special effects. But anyway, yeah, straightforward plot, goes off on all these tangents. She kind of magically just winds her way through and lucks her way through these situations at the end. So overall, enjoyed it. Good, campy fun. With that, I'll return it to you, Tom. This is KF5 TDS, back to net.
Very good. Thank you, Billy. And that does give me some ideas on what I'll ask about in a moment, or what I'll mention in a moment. Do we have any additional check-ins this evening? I think the traffic net's over, so let's see if we can pick up a few people. Tonight's movie that we are discussing is Barbarella from 1968, and we're in the process of discussing the plot. Do we have additional check-ins? Please come now and let me know, did you see Barbarella?
November 5, India, Mike, Sierra, JJ in Carrollton, and yes, I have seen the movie.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen the movie.
All right, very good. The usual suspects have checked in. N5IMS, hey JJ, welcome to the net. And you saw the film. What did you think about the plot? Oh, and Sean, I got you. KB9SOK. So we'll start with JJ. Go ahead. What did you think of the plot to Barbarella from 1968?
Well, I think, as some people have already said, the main word that jumps out when you think of plot and Barbarella is campy. And this was campy, but it was
good campy. It was specifically designed to be campy. They did it campy, and that was one of the main guiding, directions of the movie. So you can't say they didn't try and do it well. They tried to make sure it was campy every way they could, and they succeeded. So I agree that it was good, but it also was to a certain extent you had the strong female lead, and of course because of that you had to have nudity and sexuality and all the other stuff that was coming up in the late 60s and early 70s. So they kind of fit all of that stuff in. But the downside of the strong female lead was she really didn't seem to do a good job at that. And I'm not saying that Jane Fonda wasn't good. It's just the way the character was written. She wasn't great at being the strong female lead. She kind of had to be bailed out at pretty well every point by a male from one of the various males in the thing had to come bail her out of the various situations. And that may very well be because it was so early in the revolution that they couldn't have her as too strong of a female lead, or they might lose some of their audience. So they had the male come in to rescue her and stuff. But all in all, it was as I say, one of those movies you turn off your brain and just enjoy it, and that's kind of what I think this one was. I enjoyed it, and as I watched more and more of it, I remembered more and more of it from seeing it in the past. So it kind of triggered brain cells that hadn't been triggered in a long time, and that was probably a good thing. This is N5IMS, back to net.
Very good. Thank you, JJ. Sean, KB9SOK, your comments on the plot.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I think a lot of it has been said. Definitely campy, which is okay. And I agree with some of the comments that they probably should have took it even further with some of the jokes and what have you. Because obviously this is not meant to be serious science fiction of any kind. And, so I knew he was in for something special when you start out the movie and the ship is covered in shag carpeting. So, actually, I'd never actually seen this movie all the way through until now. I had always caught it probably midway through, and so it was kind of, at first, it was like, wow, I don't think I'd seen this until I got about to the angel part, and it's like, okay, now I remember it. So yeah, this was just meant to be fun. Obviously, it was brought up that it was kind of copied off of a comic book. This is kind of, typical of those type of comic books that, with the female lead always ends up into trouble and usually ends up naked at some point and then goes on from there. This almost had a little bit of the feel of the heavy metal movie. Had a little bit of the look of, definitely the 60s, but, kind of the villain was almost, similar to what you'd almost like a Bond villain to some extent, just over the top. A little bit of a look of the Flash Gordon even episode, just the craziness. This is really just meant to be fun. So you can't take the plot too seriously. What I thought was funny, though, in some respect, is that, they said, obviously there's no weapons anymore, so he gives her all these guns out of a museum, but yet she perfectly knows how to use them. And then even though they're supposed to be very peaceful, yes, she helps overthrow the government or the leadership there then, and happily hands over all these weapons over to them to let them use her guns to fight back after the very thing that the president told her to do. So we didn't want any weapons to fall into the wrong hands, but yet she hands them right over. So that was kind of funny. But I think for there those been said about it. But it was just kind of a fun, campy movie. It was actually kind of enjoyable. So that's all I got. KB9SOK, back to net control.
the thing. Now it's my turn. And I think everybody is pretty much understands that the plot, they're what plot? But I think Tony hits it correctly in saying that, well, it was a comic book, and there would be scenes and segments and all of that, and each time she was put into one of these situations that she had to get out of, you know. So the other thing is, of course, that it, you know, the comic books would have a scene and go through it and maybe conclude that scene or that comic book, move to the next one or the next chapter, and the same things happen over and over and over again. So that's why that happened, and it was mentioned in a couple of reviews that I read that it follows the comic almost exactly, meaning we have these one scene after another with you know, these moments of cliffhangers. So that, I think, probably is what you would expect. Now, one thing that happened to me in this, and it's more of a personal thing, is that I watched the film and I kept looking at my watch, trying to figure out how much longer this movie is going to go on. And mine had commercials in it, so it actually extended it out about another 10 or 12 minutes, I think, from all the commercials that were on there. And if you watched it from the link I sent you, you had commercials, unless you've got some special way of stopping them. But anyway, it went on, and I found it kind of lame. And then, after it was over, and I breathed a sigh of relief and went to bed, I started thinking about the movie. And then I started thinking about all the reviews about the plot and what was going on, some of the other things, obviously. And I realized that I hated it less the more I thought about it. Yes, it's campy. There's no two ways about it. It's campy. And some of the delivery was a little flat. The dialogue was really, you have to really listen very carefully. Some of the dialogue is rather smart and interesting. The plot, not so much, right? But we know that. So you're not expecting necessarily really good dialogue, but it is there, and it's hit and miss. It shows up when you least expect it, and then you chuckle. The scenes themselves and the sexual thing as you go through it, there's some funny scenes in there. And you start thinking about some of the bigger pictures, although this movie was never designed to make you think beyond the intellectual part. In fact, even the director said, "Nah, I didn't want it to be intellectual. If you got the intellectual out of it, you got the wrong idea." So things like what happens with drugs, and what if the society is controlled by drugs, and that's the only way that you can have any fun is through drugs. And then we see an extended scene, and I thought, that's pretty funny. I can't help it, but I thought it was rather cute. And all the things that went along with it. So the thing that I found quite entertaining was the fact that now that I think about it, the whole introduction and sort of watching the film isn't that bad. And I think if I were to watch it again, knowing how this thing is going to go, I'll pay more attention to some of the off dialogue and some of the things that are said and all of that. I'll get into on the last round some of the sensibilities and the set construction and the costumes and all that. That'll come up on another round. But I think that it'll all work together in an interesting way. And it is a cult classic for a reason. One thing I did find interesting, I found the Vanity Fair review for it from 1968. Vanity Fair, which probably was kind of hip back then, and it's still not bad. I get Vanity Fair myself, and it's not bad. But you would think that it would be kind of predisposed to actually like this movie, and they hated it. They said it was flat, it was delivered flat, it was camp, but it was self-aware, and it didn't quite make it. So maybe they needed to go for a second viewing. I'd like to see what somebody at Vanity Fair would say today about the film. I think they'd be less critical of it. But don't forget, too, in 1968, 2001: A Space Odyssey came out, and it got mixed reviews. In fact, it was panned by a number of people. Like the psychedelic sequence? Sound familiar? Okay. That's it for me on that one. Let's go to the top. Bill, N5BV. Bill, now it's time to talk about characterization. What do you got for us from KE5ICX?
Okay, Tom. This is N5BB. Okay. Well, Barbarella, name of the movie is obviously the key character. And so there was a comment about earlier that she was kind of bumbling or didn't do her job very well. She was the best person on earth to do this, supposedly. So and if you really look through the movie, all the characters had this comical, stupid things they did. So if you think about the head of the uprising, down in his secret lair, remember when he tried to let his henchman, one of the other guys, leave? He has these big, huge knife switches. I mean, it looks like a Frankenstein movie. And he goes over and he throws one, and it doesn't work, and the handle comes off. I don't know if you saw that. The handle comes off of the knife switch. And so he's all frustrated, and he tells the guy to go out via the door. And then later, one of the other guys tries to leave and goes over toward the switches, and he says, no, go out the door. And then later, there's a lot of other goofy things in that sequence there, in that scene, where he is kind of bumbling through things. He's kind of like, he doesn't know what he's doing, and very disorganized, doesn't know where anything, can't find anything. Where is that? He loses the invisible key and can't find it. He drops it on the floor and all that kind of stuff. So he's Mr. Goofball. And then the guy, Durand, Milo O'Shea, when he is the master of the universe, when he's playing that big organ thing that is supposed to kill eventually Barbarella, he's Mr. Goofball. His machine dies on him, and then he tries to run the positronic ray, and that doesn't work right. Everything kind of falls apart for him. So he's Mr. Goofball. The great tyrant, Anita Pallenberg. By the way, she was involved with the Rolling Stones at that time. She was a very famous model, kind of hanger-around actress. Anyway, she was also a little bit of a goofball. She just wasn't really in charge of what was going on. And that's kind of goofy. Marceau, Professor Ping, he's a real goofball. If you look, he just looks like a goofball. And he acts a little bit like a goofball. What else? They're all goofballs. When I looked at it, and then the angel can't see and doesn't hold a grudge and is a bit of a goofball. So it's a bunch of goofball characters thrown together. So that's the characterization. Bunch of goofballs. I thought that Jane Fonda played it just probably like it was written. She was acted like she was the competent astronaut character, the best one from Earth. She goes to do this. Now, she can't run her spacecraft without crashing it several times. There were external factors, magnetic storms. But, throughout the movie, she is definitely the protagonist. We care about her. We want her to succeed. We don't want her to fail. And somehow we know she will succeed. So in that sense, she really is the hero in the thing, and I think Jane Fonda played it pretty well for what it was. Of course, most of the movie was just art. talk about art film, this movie was mostly art, not much film. So I guess that's my characterization stuff in 5BB.
So everybody was a goofball. I'd like to thank Bill, who played the Beaver, in giving his review of the movie. The matinee that he saw with an adult with him, of course, but everybody was a goofball. Well, technically you're right, so I'll mark that one up as correct. Tony, NT5TM, what did you think of characterization in Barbarella from 1968? This is KE5ICX.
Well, on a side note, Aaron pointed out that Jane Fonda was one of the stars in the extremely serious movie They Shoot Horses, Don't They? So if you want to see her in a completely ungoofy, almost as ungoofy as possible role that she really did very well, watch that movie. She was, though, I think the best character in the movie, not only as, of course, Barbarella the protagonist, but she often, Jane Fonda to me, seemed to be the only one who was her character at least, was very clear about what kind of movie she was in. She did seem to be aware of that, but not too much aware, not destroying the fun. And really, her character's kind of openness and just essential goodness worked, because in addition to being the protagonist, people kept wanting to help her. So, yes, everyone was kind of a goofball and kept having incidents, and switch handles coming off, and vacuum tubes not warping people to where they were supposed to go. Sometimes being a nice person is apparently helpful when you're having adventures. So I did like her character, and that made it a lot more fun. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. I was wondering what you would say, and you focused on Barbarella. Interesting. Okay, next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, what did you think of characterization in Barbarella? KE5ICX.
This is KG5BZW. Okay, as far as the characters go, I think Bill and Tony's kind of covered the main Barbarella probably being the really being the best character. I don't know that there's much I can say about that. I will say there was a few comments back that says like it was always the male, some male take care of business. Well, okay, hold on. Rescuing Barbarella, which is not. I mean, all right, I'm a little bit tired, so my phrasing's just off here. It's like generally the case, but that's the same point. The one point I wanted to say was, hey, she was also saved by the Great Tire too, as the one-eyed winch. So it's just like it's not so much that Barbarella's always getting saved by a guy. She just always gets saved just because. I guess that somehow her character, it's like just a character trait that's almost not intrinsic, but it's like borderline extrinsic. Just her, but it's I don't know how to explain it. It's extrinsic, but it flows from her intrinsic. I don't know. Anyway, Yeah, everybody's goofy. Although I really do kind of like the Grey Tyrant. I wish they had developed her a little bit better. I see a lot of potential that could have happened, but didn't. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. KG5BW, back to that.
Jay, were you done? I'm not sure. I didn't hear your call.
I said it. I thought I heard it on the radio. I don't know. KG5BW, back to that.
Alright, I'm sorry. You may have said it. I was kind of going through some of the characters here and listening what you were saying and trying to figure out what I was going to say next when it was my turn. So forgive me, I had divided loyalties there. Next up, KI5KWG. Cruz, what did you think of characterization from Barbarella?
When I struggle with the characters in a film, I want to go back and take a look at the book. In this case, we just had the comic, and I couldn't really find much on the internet about it. I think maybe with the early introduction of Pygar, that was the angel character, I was looking for personifications, trying to come up with some sort of a pattern defined in these different characters, but I didn't find it. And finally it dawned on me, going back, as I said, go back to the book when you're working with the characters, and it really just came down to, it's an action hero story. That's really all there was to it. And with that, I think that's about all I've got to say on that. So KI5KWG, back to net.
Nothing wrong with that, and you did hold the repeater. You still got a lot of noise, but I could hear you that time with turning up the volume a little bit, so you were good. So whatever you did, stick with it. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, your thoughts on characterization? I know you took tons of notes last night. You were just talking all about the movie, so go ahead. From KE5ICX.
WB50ZL, huh? I don't know what you're talking about. Characters, well, I thought people were cast pretty well. I didn't see anybody in there that you think, well, he just isn't right for that part. Jane Fonda, you know, she plays the part of a bimbo, and it's like her acting is lightweight, but who has 2 Oscars and a bunch of other awards and a bunch of Oscar nominations. She won an Oscar for Clute, which is one of my favorite movies of hers, and that was nominated for They Shoot Horses, Don't They?, which I consider that movie to be a crime against humanity, and I'm so sorry I saw it. I would never recommend anybody see something so horrible and hideous and depressing. Anyway, the Marcel Marceau, that was strange to see him speaking, and it's such an unusual role. So let's see, characters. It's supposed to be a comic book, and it is. So let's not try and make it Shakespeare. It is a comic book, so we'll cut up some slack for that, for the characters being strange and bizarre. Okay, back to net, WB50ZL.
Boy, that was short. I thought you'd have more to say about that, but that's okay. I know you were wore down last night from watching this film, which went on forever, but that's okay. Maybe it was from taking all those notes. It's hard to say. All right, next up is Miss Billy, Cat5 PDS. Billy, what did you think of characterization for what we watched? Barbarella. This is KE5I6.
I agree with what's been said. Nobody was miscast. This, to me, was very well cast film. Everybody played their roles beautifully, looked the part beautifully. And I'm with Jay. I think Barbarella, she gets rescued. And thanks for pointing out, that she does kind of get rescued. She gets in the situation with the Great Tyrant when she's in disguise as the one-eyed wench. So she does get saved by her, so it was a good point to make. And I think you're right. It was because of her intrinsic goodness that she continually got rescued out of these life-threatening situations, because Sogo was a pretty, deadly place if you did not know how to navigate it, and if you were a good person, it's like they could see you a mile away and target you. So and Sogo is reference to the sinful Sodom and Gomorrah, Sogo. So it was a place that thrived on evil energy. So she came at it with her good energy, so much so that at the end, as she and the Great Tyrant were rising up through the Mathmos, it couldn't devour them because it formed a bubble around Barbarella's intrinsic goodness. And even the Great Tyrant noticed that. She's like, Mathmos, you're indigestible to it because you're too good. And so I thought that was really interesting. And the fact that Barbarella was found when she was in the labyrinth by an angel, the very first character to come across her was Pygar. And she immediately thought she was dead. And he was like, no, you're in the labyrinth. And that's where basically all the good people got relegated to. They were exiled to the labyrinth if they would not succumb to the evil of Sogo. So she was among people that were, like her, of good energy. And this plays into the whole 60s vibe, the psychedelic vibe, of energy and, those kind of metaphysical concepts. So I thought that was really portrayed well. And, of course, the beautiful John Philip Law, he was perfectly cast as Pygar. And so I did think it was interesting. It's like he says, an angel has no memory, but he could recall with great detail his life and how he got to the labyrinth. And so I thought that was really kind of interesting. It's like, he can remember details about his own life, but nothing else. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Angel has no memory, kind of a selective memory. It's like he does have some memory, but just, maybe not completely of everything. But still, it was, great, fun characters. Professor Ping, as Bill pointed out, he is very strange, eccentric. He's your typical, and basically all-around good guy. And yeah, it was interesting to see Marcel Marceau in a speaking role. Although his voice was overdubbed, was Anita Pallenberg's. Those are not their voices. But I thought the characters were very well cast, very well played, very much, of the times, with the sexual revolution starting to happen, and also the time of free love and experimentation with drugs and psychedelic movements, and minimal politicization. There was, the little bit of political talk at the beginning about the trouble that Earth could run into with the problems that she could run into in Tau Ceti. So, not much political atmosphere, just a lot of good vibes and more of the psychedelic vibes. So I thought all the characters were very well played. And Bill, the one thing I also noticed about Dildano's, his underground lair, besides the switches coming apart, was he couldn't get the lights on the light board to light up because he was trying to show her, he's like, these are the lights where we have everything stationed, and then nothing was on. He was like repeatedly kicking it to get the lights to turn on. So his bumbling made Barbarella look good, and she even corrected him when he was trying to call out on the radio. He couldn't even make a radio call out right, because he kept saying Professor Ping to headquarters, Professor Ping to headquarters, and she was like, no. He was like, headquarters to Professor Ping, headquarters to Professor Ping. I thought that was really funny. So there needed to be more humorous moments like that. Also, she had several costume changes, and I thought it was funny, the one where she had the excessively long tail and she kept tripping over it and shutting it in the door of the spaceship. There were several funny moments, some comic relief in there amidst the story. So they did interject some fun things along the way. But yeah, I thought just the characterizations were really good, and for fun for the movie, and very well cast. So with that, I'll return it to you, Tom. This is KF5 CDS, back to now.
Pretty good, thank you, Billy. And I forgot about the radio part. That was hilarious because when you first become a ham, you make that mistake. And if you do enough traffic nets, you'll make that mistake. So I thought that was rather entertaining too. All right, next is JJ, N5IMS. JJ, your thoughts on characterization from KE5ICX.
Well, let's see. First, let me mention this comment being it was brought up twice. The other Jane Fonda movie. Now, of course, my brain decided to not remember. Oh, they shoot horses, don't they? That movie. We were just discussing it on this repeater earlier today. Turns out Melissa's grandfather wrote that book, and it was basically somewhat based on his life from in the early 20s or what have you, in those all-night dance partings where you basically, the winner is the person who is able to dance continuously for 2-3 days, whatever it was. But just figured I would bring that in because I think most people here know Melissa, and so it kind of ties it into the net. Now back to the movie. I do think everybody was cast properly. It was very good casting. They played their part well. Yes, I admit, some of them, most of them, I guess, were kind of clumsy in what they were doing, but that's what the part called for, and that's how it was written, and they did it well. And I enjoyed watching them fumble on things. Now, when the knife switch, broke when he was trying to get it, I thoroughly expected him to try and grab the metal part of the knife switch, but at least somebody realized that that would have been high voltage and would have been dangerous and probably fatal had he done that. So he never grabbed it. But I was kind of expecting that to happen. But it does seem like Barbarella would have known more about her spaceship, so she would have known what was wrong, and that big burn mark on the side kind of would have pointed in a direction like, well, we're going to have to fix that soon, before we do anything else and stuff. And she didn't. She had to wait for the guy who rescued her from the cave to think about that and fix the stuff that was inside. But we can forgive her for that, just because had she done that, it would have delayed. Must have released, but had she taken the time to fix that, that would have delayed the other parts of the movie, and so it was probably best that it continued on. But I enjoyed the characters. They did what they were supposed to do, and everything. So this N5IMS back to net.
All right, thank you, JJ. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts for characterization for, I forgot the movie, Barbarella from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I think it's been pretty well said. I do think it was pretty well cast. It was nice to see that for the most part, most of the characters did put in a true effort into this. Sometimes when you get these campy movies, or, I'm not sure what the budget was, but sometimes these maybe not so big budget movies, sometimes you do catch the actors just phoning it in and not really going for it. And it seems like everybody pretty well went for it. They didn't mind being silly and, just being odd. So that was good to see. Yes, there was a few scenes that Barbarella, Jane Fonda, the lines were a little bit flat, but it after a while it kind of just became part of the character. So maybe there was a little bit of intention there on that part. But yeah, obviously this was not going to be a show where there was a lot of growth and characters and all that, because it was just a campy, fun movie. Obviously hers was probably the most interesting part of the whole thing, as far as characters, of course, and just good fun, and once again, it wasn't an in-depth character kind of thing. So yeah, not a lot to really add. I'm really curious on the next route to see what Tom's thoughts are on that super accurate spacesuit at the beginning. We know how Tom is with spacesuits. Back to net, this is KB9SOK.
Yes, I do like a good spacesuit, and yes, ask me about the A7Ls. I'll tell you all about them, but this one I don't think it's an A7L. All right, next is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on characterization. That's it, characterization.
This is KB9SOK. I think you got lost on your list there, Tom. I was the last one that was just up. Back to net, KB9SOK.
You're right. And I thought for a minute, no, that sounds like JJ. But no, you're right. Forgive me, guys. I didn't get my nap today. Today was, we had, Western Lab today. So I didn't get my nap, so I'm kind of in wacky world. All right, let's see here. It's 11:50. I'm going to try and go down the list here. Anything you want to ask or say about the movie? Now is the time. Music, costumes, there's plenty of that. Anything you may have missed. So I'll start with Bill. N5BB. Bill, go ahead. N5BB, wake up. Alright, let's see. He may have dozed off. He does that. NT5TM, Tony, anything you want to say? Go ahead.
movie, as much as the music didn't suit me personally, it was better than a lot of other campy movies of the era. They tried to be original and creative. It wasn't just the standard stereotypical musical cues. I didn't like it, but at least they were trying to be creative, so that was a positive note. The other thing that I was noticeable, because I'd seen bits of this movie before, but watching it all through for the first time was something I just did this afternoon, was really how much of a legacy this had, sneaking into other things. If this didn't influence The Fifth Element, I'd be shocked, and other movies too. It was also fun to see some of the first occurrences of cliches that were later lampooned in movies like Galaxy Quest, the way Jane Fonda's outfits always get torn up to become more revealing, or the children who she's so good-natured toward and seem possibly adorable at first, then attack her with the menacing dolls. Made me think of those cute little aliens in Galaxy Quest who also had razor-sharp teeth and liked eating each other. So I think it was definitely an influential movie, and it was fun to see where all those influences came from. NT5TM.
Excellent points, Tony. I think you're right. There is a legacy there. GG5BZW, Jay, your comments, anything you want. Go ahead. This is what happens when we get late into the evening. So we'll go to Cruise, KI5KWG. Anything you want to say about the movie? It's no holds barred. Go ahead from KE5I6.
KI5KWG. I actually took notes while watching it. I watched it last week, and I had 3 items that I hadn't addressed here. One was that the labyrinth reminded me of Dante's Inferno. So again, I mentioned earlier I was looking for personifications, which I think weren't there. It was basically the spaghetti western version of Perils of Folly. And the other comment that I had was talking about legacies is the Leatherman, I noted, had the aim of a Star Wars stormtroopers. They could not hit the broadside of a barn. That's the only comments I believe I had left. KI5KWG enjoyed this. Back to Nick.
Oh man, and those are good comments. I absolutely agree with you. Thanks. We missed those somehow, but you did not. Next up, Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, your comments. Go ahead.
WB50ZL. Well, my favorite thing about this movie was her spaceship had shag carpeting everywhere. Brown, long shag carpeting on the walls, on the floors, everywhere. I was very fond of shag carpeting. In 1970, I lived in an apartment that had red shag carpeting, and the apartment came with a carpet rake, and I was very proud of it. I just thought it was just the height of good taste. That's all I got. WB50ZL.
Well, Brenda, the shag carpet does explain a lot. Okay, next up is Billy, KF5PDS. Billy, anything you would like to say about this movie? It's all yours. Go ahead. KE5ICX.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, one thing that I don't know that if we're hearing anybody mention was the music of the film. If you look at the credits, it says the music is performed by a band called the Glitter House, so that makes me curious to go listen to more of their stuff. One thing I noted in the trivia on IMDb is it says that Dave Gilmour, the guitarist of Pink Floyd, was one of the session players. Let me find. A lot of trivia. One thing I did note about the special effects to make her look like she was in Zero G is that she had Jane Fonda had to lay on a piece of plexiglass, and then they filmed from underneath to make it look like she was floating in Zero G. And she actually had 7 costume changes in the film. And the director of photography, I found this very interesting. Claude Renoir was the grandson of the famous Impressionist painter Pierre-Auguste Renoir. I found that very interesting, that, you know, he could bring that, you know, kind of, you know, I was thinking that, you know, maybe that had something to do with the way he portrayed all the psychedelic stuff, you know. And I noticed that there was the French painting, part of the Surat pointillism painting in her spaceship. So there's notable French influence throughout the film. But I'm trying to find that information about, oh, here it is. Dave Gilmour, guitarist of Pink Floyd, was one of the session musicians who performed the movie's original score. So I thought that was really interesting. And there's a lot of other things out here in the IMDb trivia, so you can take a look at that. But yeah, and this movie influenced one of the greatest 80s bands of all time, Duran Duran, who is my all-time favorites. And they're still going strong, and they're actually up for nomination to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I am very interested to see them. And I think it would be awesome for them to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So, and it all started, they got their influence for the name from. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Tom. I look forward to hearing what we're going to do for next week. So this is KF5 PDS, back to net.
Very good. Thank you, Billy. Good comments, too. N5IMS, JJ. And it's JJ, not Sean. It's JJ. I'm not going to get you guys mixed up again. Maybe whatever happened. But N5IMS, JJ, your comment. Anything you want.
Yeah, the one thing on the music being, you know, I kept hearing the name Duran Duran throughout the whole movie. I kept waiting for Hungry Like the Wolf or Girls on Film or what have you. But I guess with Jane Fonda being half naked, or not just her, but many of the girls being half naked in there, I guess maybe this Barbarella was indeed partly Girls on Film, you know, especially the unedited release. You know, they only played the edited release on MTV, but there supposedly was a R or possibly X-rated version of that music video, and I heard about it but never saw it, but made me wonder if Barbarella was you know, somewhat the inspiration for that as well, just the band name. But it just, I enjoyed the music, but I just kept waiting for Duran Duran because that name kept going in there, so it kept going through my mind. So I was waiting for one of their songs. N5IMS, back to net.
All right, thank you, JJ. And now Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, I'll only call on you once, not twice. So go ahead. Comments, whatever you want about this movie.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, it's I agree there. By the music seemed to fit it rather well. Yeah, maybe not exactly was my type of music, but it definitely fit the theme. And the comments about Duran Duran's interesting. I didn't realize that this was the influence for the name for that band. Obviously, very familiar with them, but did not realize that's where it came from. So that's pretty interesting. Because I thought the same thing when they said that name. First thing I thought of was the band, but I didn't know there was that tie-in. Well, the effects were, like I said, you know, they looked a little bit, obviously, on the cheesy side, even though this was a movie. And obviously, I'm sure they spent a lot of money on the sets. But obviously, the spaceship was clearly made out of wood. But in that time, I guess, like I said, it almost, it just, that part was a little cheesy, but it didn't really bother me because it was a camping movie. Once again, this wasn't, a serious science fiction film, so it didn't really bother me in this case. I like Tom's comment about thinking about the movie afterwards, because I kind of sort of did the same thing. When I watched it through, I thought, okay, it was all right, kind of fun, but didn't really give it a whole lot of depth. I thought, well, I probably wouldn't watch that again, but as I thought about it throughout the day, it's like, well, actually, it did grow on me even more after I thought about it as well. So I thought that was interesting. It kind of felt the same way about it. And one day I may watch this again, look at more of the detail. I'm amazed by some of the comments and some of the details people are picking out of this. And so I'm almost tempted to watch it again at some point. Like I didn't even notice the French painting on the wall. So it's always fun to hear the comments from everybody and what they notice. But since we're getting late here, I'll send it back to net. This is KB9SOK.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. And good observations. I thought, it's amazing what we all picked out of this movie. And that was, I think, part of the fun. And maybe that's why it's worth a second viewing if you've not seen it before. A couple of things. First off, about the special effects in that, or lack thereof. They had the same, that two-man thing kept blowing up the same way. They must have done it like 10 times, that same explosion, and I'm sure there were a few others, but there's one where it hits the side of the hill or papier-mâché hill or something, and it did it like a million times. That reminded me of the original Battlestar Galactica and how many times they blew up the Cylon Raider ship, at least 300 times. Same shot, over and over. I love the music. This is Bob Crew and Charles Fox. Now, if anybody has, I looked at it, I had to look it up because Charles Fox, he sounds familiar. Oh yeah, he's familiar. He did a lot of 70s television stuff, including, remember, Wonder Woman, Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Paper Chase, let's see, Love Boat, everybody knows the words. It's there, foul play for the movie, Ready to Take the Chance Again, Last American Hero. So now this was with another fellow, but this was all Fox. So that kind of funky beat and that lounge music thing, I actually don't mind it. I listen to some of that. There's a guy, I can't think of his name right now, who does a sound, let me reset. There's a guy, a kid actually, up in the Northeast somewhere. He's in his 20s, maybe 30s now, I don't know, who does funky music soundtrack stuff. He knows everything there is to know about soundtracks, and he's particularly loves to do lounge music type stuff, and I'm positive he has done this movie because it's right down his alley. Sometime I'll find it and I'll let you know. It's well worth listening to. He does a 2-hour program every week, and he's amazing. He knows every movie, every kind of music possible. He's even done porno movies, believe it or not, music for porno movies. I know, you're thinking, but the other stuff is normal, and he just finds this stuff. All right, that's it for me. I love the costumes. I even loved the cardboard sets with the shag carpeting. I thought that was fun, so I thought it was very smart. Next week's movie. Everybody ready? We're going to do a little change of pace. We're used to watching movies sink into the water, but we're going to do something different. We're going to watch Raise the Titanic from, I think it's 1981 or something like that. Whatever year it is. Raise the Titanic. Why is it a science fiction movie? There's no way they're going to raise the Titanic, so it should be entertaining in some weird way. So that's it. It's available on YouTube. I'll send the links out for all of that. So unless anybody's got any final comments, I'm going to close her down. Anybody got anything they want to say? Anybody want to fight? Anybody want to say, any final words? I'll let you before we close. Go ahead.
N5BB.
KG5BB.
All right, we got two final comments, N5BB Bill, and then after that is Jay, KG5BZW. Bill, go ahead.
Very good, Tom. I was gone for a while because I looked at the clock and I realized, oh, heck, it's getting late even on the West Coast, and my nephew, who's right now in Redmond, Washington, he had his... Redmond, Washington, had his 20th birthday today, so I was going to call him and wish him a happy birthday. So I'm sorry. That's why I disappeared for a while. I just want to say that the psychedelic art stuff in this really pulled me back to that time frame. This movie came out the year before I got my novice license, my amateur radio license. And so I was like 14 years old, so I was too young to see this movie. I mean, it was before our movies, effectively an adult movie, you know. And it's the first time I'd seen the whole thing, but all the psychedelic art stuff in it and the costumes really pulled me back to what was going on back then. And just to point out that this came out about the same time, right after The Prisoner, the TV show, that there's a lot of similarities around just the whole production design and thought about these things. And also the Batman TV series on TV came out around the same time. Biff Bop. There's some similarities there. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, besides 2001: A Space Odyssey, Planet of the Apes came out in 1968. Those two movies were serious. This one was not. That's all I got. Good night. N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. All good points, and I did jot down the Batman comment, but you brought it to the fore. I agree with you on that. KG5BZW. Jay, your final comments. Go ahead. You may be last, but you're not least. Go ahead.
All right, this is KG5BW. I'm back on radio now. I don't know. I guess N5BB's comments kind of answers one of the questions. Like, what happened? Because I know I was tired and kind of zonked out, but all of a sudden I was like, I wanted to say something on the third round, and then it's like, wait, how? I don't know. Anyway, it's just not much that I wanted to say. I did like the hovercraft manta ray thing, and the design of the ship was pretty cool. The Barbarella spaceship. Some aspects of it, I won't say all of it, but it kind of had it acted kind of like a living, breathing thing at one point. I don't know. There's definitely some aesthetic to this that was very interesting. But anyway, those were my 2 points. So not too big, not big things to end on, but I guess I wanted to just say those. All right, I'll hand it back to about Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray. Kilo Golf 5, probably.
W5FC.
Hey, Tom, I'm going to grab it back for a final comment. This is N5BB. I was talking to Melissa Tanner earlier today, KI5GRH, and she has a weird connection to this. Okay, you ready for this? Her grandfather was Horace McCoy, who was a character who wrote They Shoot Horses, Don't They? This was the next movie that Jane Fonda was in that she did very well in the following year. So Horace McCoy, who was Melissa Tanner's grandfather, he passed away in 1955 before she was born. But Horace McCoy wrote the book, They Shoot Horses, Don't They? And 14 years after he died, they filmed that movie. In 1969, it came out the year after Barbarella. So there's a little connection between Melissa and this movie. In 5B, be clear.
Thank you, Bill. Yes. And don't forget, Jane Fonda was in They Don't Shoot Horses. They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Right? And Red Buttons was in that film, and Red Buttons died. So, sad. And then Red Buttons was in The Poseidon Adventure, and he died in that. Poor Red Buttons. I don't know why I'm saying that. I guess because I'm tired and I'm starved from sleep. All right, everybody, go to bed. We'll be back next week. The movie will be Raise the Titanic from, I think, 1981 or something like that. You can find over on the Facebook page, Afterglow Movie, 2 words, or send me an email if you would like to know the links in the next movie to KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray at yahoo.com. I'll put you with the list with everybody else. See y'all later. Have a good one. I'm going to go watch Lost in Space. The Hungry Sea tonight is the episode number 3 from the original series. See y'all. KE5ICX clear.
Hey, Tom, you do know that Terry Southern wrote a lot of Barbarella, some of the early writing in it. And, of course, he was from North Texas and graduated from high school in Austin. Terry Southern. In 5B, be clear.
Yeah, I saw that, Bill, and he didn't get any, I guess he didn't get any credit. Okay, I gotta make a bio break, and I'm gonna go watch my TV show. See you later. This is KE5ICX. Clear.
And remember, come to the Irving Ham Fest so you can look through all the Radio Shack junk and find an adapter so you can get rid of the hum. And 5BB is finally clear.